Topic, of course, of this past week has been Earl Thomas. Got into a fight there with his Ravens teammate, Chuck Clark, and eventually it led to Thomas being cut by the Ravens just 1 year into the big 4-year contract that he signed there with Baltimore after he departed the Seattle Seahawks. And obviously, Carter, you're very familiar with Earl Thomas, playing with Seattle for many years. Came up in 2010, won the Super Bowl with them back in 2013. Obviously, was a big part of that Legion of Boom there with them. Him, Richard Sherman, Michael Bennett, so many others. I know I'm forgetting. Of course, you can name all those guys, I'm sure. But for Earl Thomas, though, he goes off to Baltimore. Last year, the Ravens had a really phenomenal season, mainly because of part of Lamar Jackson being the MVP last season. But now with Earl Thomas, though, being cut by Baltimore, getting into a fight there with his teammate, it eventually resolves in him getting released. But then you kind of starting to see about him. He was either late to meetings or he didn't even show up at all during his short stint with Baltimore. It kind of shows you there too that that him being a leader just was not there for Baltimore as they hoped when they signed him, because we know that the past couple of years have been kind of tough for him. Really missed out much in preseason with the Seahawks back in 2018 before he eventually showed up to play in the regular season. But then just about 4 games into the season, he breaks his leg and gives Pete Carroll a little finger gesture with the middle finger. Yep. So not too happy with that. But now that he goes to Baltimore, he goes to a really decent team there. They made the playoffs for the past couple seasons, but now he's no longer with the team. No doubt I think he will sign with the team before the season does get going. Of course, we know that there's been a lot of safety measures going on because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But no doubt, though, I think he will be on the roster by the time week 1 does come around, I would say.
Yeah, I definitely think so, too. I would not be surprised. I mean, obviously, Earl Thomas, the last few years have been interesting for him. He's just had obviously, with the issue with the Seahawks, he flipped Pete Carroll off. And obviously, I remember watching that game, too, just being like, wow, that's unfortunate, because I knew that was his last game as a Seattle Seahawk.
Yeah.
I just you knew it because it was a season-ending injury. You knew he's not coming back because we're not going to pay him. So obviously, I from a football side of things, why the Seahawks didn't sign him, because of injuries in the past, and I think they're looking to move on from him, and they didn't really want to pay him, and he was kind of just trapped in a way. And obviously, it is unfortunate that he did have a season-ending injury, and I was glad last year that he did play really well with the Ravens and he got some of his money. And then when the news broke out, I remember you telling me, that him and his teammate got in a fight. I'm like, oh, it's okay, it happens. Then the next day he's released, and I'm like, wow, that really escalated for the worse. So, I hope the best for him as a old time Seattle Seahawk. Obviously, I still hope and wish the best for him. But hopefully he can kind of realize some of his mistakes and maybe try to move on from that. And the next NFL team that he is on, maybe he reflects upon his actions the last few years and learns from it and becomes a better person, becomes a better teammate, becomes a better football player. Because ultimately, I think, his talent, I mean, no one's questioning his talent. We know how good he is on the football field, even with the injuries that he has had the last few years. But yeah, I just hope he learns from that. And I think, I think the next team that gets him, hopefully takes a chance on him and he does learn that. And hopefully it's a win-win for both sides.
Absolutely. I think when you look at Earl Thomas right now, being 31 years old, you want the leadership to be there for him. You want him to kind of be a mentor to the younger players that have been in the league for maybe just a couple of seasons or that just recently have been drafted there as well. You don't want to go out like that with the team where you were involved in a physical altercation with them. But I think this is definitely going to be hopefully a time where he's learned, he's reflected on what he did, and hopefully he becomes not just a better football player but also a better person and a better teammate as well. I think that's definitely going to be the biggest thing for him if he can try to become that type of guy. So hopefully that does tend to be the case for him. But I think right now, though, this is a time of reflection for him. What went wrong, and hopefully with Seattle too. I get the frustrations. You want to get paid. You want to secure up that that long-term contract, so that way when you do end up not playing anymore, you still have enough money in the bank in order to secure not just your future, but also your family's future as well. If you have kids, whatever the case may be. So I think that's what he was really thinking about there as well. So I think for Earl Thomas, now that he's no longer with the team, still again, probably going to have to get paid by the Ravens. But for right now, though, I think this is definitely going to be a time of reflection for sure. So I'm definitely curious to see how this is all going to work out for him. Obviously, I think the big question is if the team does decide to sign him, they are going to be taking somewhat of a risk, I would say. But eventually, though, right now, you have to think, though, how is he going to help out our team? Is he going to help us out win right away on defense? Because he's a very dominant safety, as we all know. Very terrific there in the defensive backfield for whoever he plays for. Last year for Baltimore, did a really good job with Seattle. He was a stud there with them. Even after they started to see some guys go away like Sherman, Michael Bennett, but still did a really good job. Even in 2018, his shortened season, that when he broke his leg in the fourth game, I think he had 3 or 4 interceptions already. He was on fire, but eventually then the injury came and got him and costed him the rest of the season. So I think for Earl Thomas, this is a time of right now where he just needs to reflect on what he did wrong, and hopefully he learns from it and he comes out with a new team, and he's just, and then players are saying he's been a really fun to play with. He's been great to look up to. He's helped us out a lot, but we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, and obviously, he's had a couple of off the field issues that have happened. Obviously, his wife held a gun to his head, and we don't know obviously what what was going on with that, and there's some other things as well that has happened. So maybe it could have just been escalating for a while, and he's taking his frustration out on his teammates and things like that, and taking it out. And sometimes that happens, obviously, and just obviously wish the best for him. Hopefully, he can come back, be on a new team, and kind of really just figure things out and do what he was, do what he's supposed to do, and just go play football, and also just be a good teammate at the same time. Because ultimately, we know that's what he wants at the end of the day. So,
yeah, absolutely. I think this is just that point right now where he needs to understand that, it's been a pretty tough couple months for him. Like you said, his wife holding a gun to his head, and then now he gets cut by the Ravens after a physical altercation with a teammate. So hopefully things do work out the best for him. Eventually he does clean up things that he needs to, and he comes out. He does a really good job if he decides to play in this coming season. Obviously, we know that this season holds a lot of unknowns at this point, but it's just a day-by-day process right now. But like I said, we'll see what happens with that. It's just going to be really curious to see how this is all going to play out for him and for whatever team does tend to sign him.